Hello, English learners, and welcome back to Life Talk English.
I'm your host, Nico.
And I'm Elisa. We're here to help you speak real English for real life, one conversation at a time.
Tonight, we're talking about something that sounds simple, but this might be harder than it sounds.
Yep, how to get ready before you even apply for your work visa. The first steps, the quiet ones no one really tells you about, but that make a huge difference.
So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here.
And tell us in the comments where you are right now and what time it is there. We love imagining you listening from all over the world.
Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on the fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together.
Picture this. You're sitting at your desk. There's a warm cup of tea or coffee next to you. Your laptop is open, but the screen is still dark. Before you even touch the keyboard, you take a deep breath.
This is where it starts, not with filling in forms, but with gathering your tools. Think of it like packing for a trip before you book the flight.
Exactly. And the first tool is your passport. Check the expiry date. You'd be surprised how many people get stuck because their passport expires in less than 6 months.
Right. Imagine you go through all the work, forms, fees, interviews, and then they say, sorry, your passport's too close to expiry. Not fun.
So, step 1, make sure your passport is valid for at least a year beyond your intended stay. Step 2, get a folder.
A real folder, paper or digital. If digital, create a main folder called Work Visa and subfolders like Documents, Receipts, Emails. Keep everything in one place.
And step 3, start a checklist. Yes, I know it sounds boring, but trust me, future you will thank present you.
This is a little English learning moment. The phrase future you will thank present you is playful English we use to mean you'll be glad you did this later. It's informal but common.
So as you make your checklist, write down things you might not think of. Passport photos in the right size, original degree certificates, job offer letter, police clearance or background check, health insurance details.
And here's another tip. Scan every document. Keep digital copies ready to email or upload. That way, if someone says, could you send me your degree certificate? You can send it in 5 minutes, not 5 days.
Oh, and speaking of sending things, do you know how to name your files clearly? Immigration offices love it when you do. For example, John_Doe_passport.pdf instead of scan1234.pdf.
That's a good mini English lesson too. Use underscores or hyphens instead of spaces in file names. Spaces sometimes break links in emails.
Now, the next big thing is understanding your job offer before you apply. You need to know your exact job title, start date, and salary. If your offer letter says software engineer, but your visa form says IT specialist, it could cause delays.
So it's not just about having documents, it's about making them match perfectly.
And here's where politeness in English comes in. If you need to ask your employer to update the offer letter, you can say, would it be possible to update my job title to match the visa application requirements? Or, could you please confirm the start date as stated in the contract?
Notice how we say, would it be possible, or could you please, instead of change this. That's softening your request, and it's a big cultural point.
Yes, because in many English-speaking countries, politeness in official requests is not just nice, it's expected.
And don't forget to check the small details, your name spelling, your date of birth, your job location.
That's another English phrase. The devil is in the details. It means small mistakes can cause big problems.
So before you even open the application form, you've already checked your passport expiry, created a document folder, made a checklist, scanned your documents, matched job details to your forms.
And bonus, learn some natural English phrases along the way.
Oh, and one last step for tonight. Mental preparation. Getting a work visa can be a slow, sometimes frustrating process.
Exactly. It's not a sprint. It's more like a tea ceremony. Slow, careful, each step in order.
That's a nice image. And if you start with order and calm now, the rest will go smoother.
Like we'll say later in the interview section, being calm helps you sound confident. But that starts today, before you even type your first word.
All right, so that's your quiet beginning. Tomorrow, well, in our next section, we'll talk about the different types of work visas so you can choose the right path from the start.
For now, keep that cup of tea warm, check your passport, and start that checklist.
So, Elisa, last time we talked about getting ready before you even touched the visa application.
Yep, passports, checklists, folders, all the fun pre-party work.
Exactly. Now we move into understanding the different types of work visas. Because, honestly, if you don't know which one you're applying for, you can waste weeks, sometimes months, going in the wrong direction.
Picture this. You've got your job offer in one hand and your passport in the other. But the country you're going to has like 6 different work visa categories. Which one do you choose?
Right, and here's the first English term you need to know. Category. In this context, it means type or group. Immigration websites often say things like work visa categories or visa subclasses.
And subclass is just a smaller group under a bigger category. So a temporary work visa might have a subclass for seasonal workers, another for skilled workers, another for cultural exchange, and so on.
Exactly. Let's break down some common work visa types you'll see in English-speaking countries.
Okay, type 1, the skilled worker visa. This is for people with specific skills the country needs, like engineers, nurses, or software developers.
Type 2, the temporary or seasonal work visa, usually for jobs that are time-limited, like fruit picking, holiday resort work, or summer camps.
Type 3, the intra-company transfer visa. That's if your current company moves you to a branch in another country.
Type 4, the working holiday visa. This one's for younger people, often under 30, who want to work while traveling.
And type 5, the investor or business visa, for people who want to start a business or invest a certain amount of money in the country.
Now, not all countries use the same names. That's why it's important to visit the official immigration website for your destination.
Yes, and look for sections titled eligibility or requirements. Those words tell you who can apply and what you need.
Here's a mini English lesson. Eligibility means having the right conditions to apply. So, if you don't meet the eligibility criteria, you can't get that visa.
And criteria means the rules or conditions you must meet. For example, a skilled worker visa might have the criteria: you must have a job offer and you must have a degree in your field.
Now, choosing the right visa isn't just about your job title. It's also about your long-term plan. Are you going for 1 year or 5 years? Do you want to stay permanently one day?
Yeah, because some visas can be a stepping stone to permanent residency and others can't.
And here's the tricky part. Sometimes your employer doesn't know all the visa details. You might have to guide the conversation.
Like saying, could you confirm which visa category this role qualifies for? Or, is this position eligible for employer sponsorship?
Notice the polite phrases again. Could you confirm? And is this position eligible? These make your request sound professional, not demanding.
Here's a quick cultural tip. In many English-speaking countries, showing that you've done your homework before asking the question earns respect.
Yes, so instead of saying, "What visa should I get?"
You might say, I've looked at the skilled worker and intra-company transfer visas. Which do you think is most suitable for my situation?
It shows you've made an effort, and you're inviting them to guide you, not do all the work.
Now, a little role play. Imagine you're calling an immigration office.
Hello, Immigration Services. How can I help you?
Hello, I'm calling to confirm the correct visa category for my job. I'm moving to work as a mechanical engineer for a company that's sponsoring me. Would that be under the skilled worker visa?
Perfect. Clear, polite, and straight to the point.
Here's another English term. Straight to the point means you don't waste time with unnecessary details.
But still polite. That balance is important. Too direct can sound rude, but too many words can make you unclear.
Exactly. And remember, each visa type has its own form, fee, and list of documents. If you start with the wrong one, you might have to start over.
And that's where people lose time, money, and sometimes patience.
So, your action steps for this stage. Identify the country's visa categories. Match your job and long-term goal to the right category. Check the eligibility criteria carefully. Confirm with your employer or the immigration office.
And of course, learn the English terms so you can understand the instructions without guessing.
Next time, we'll talk about how to research country requirements, where to look, what's reliable, and how to avoid bad information.
And I might tell you the story about the time I accidentally read a visa requirement for the wrong country.
Oh yes, that's going to be good.
Okay, Elisa. Last time we left off with you almost telling a story about reading the wrong country's visa rules.
Yeah, I'll tell it. So a few years ago, I was helping a friend apply for a work visa. I Googled work visa requirements and clicked the first link. It was a government website, looked official, lots of blue banners, a flag in the corner. I read everything, took notes for 2 hours, and then I realized it was the wrong country.
Oh, no.
Yep. I was reading Australia's visa site when she was actually moving to Austria. The spelling is just one letter different, but the rules completely different worlds.
That's a perfect example of why researching country requirements needs more than a quick search.
Exactly. Step 1, always, always, always check that the website ends with the official government domain. In English-speaking countries, that might be .gov, United States, .gov.uk, United Kingdom, or .gov.au, Australia.
And in some countries, the Immigration Department has its own official site, like immigration.gov.nz for New Zealand. If it's not a government site, you have to double-check the information.
Here's your first English term of this section, double check. It means to check again, just to be sure.
Now, some people skip reading the official site because the language is too formal, but that's actually a great opportunity to improve your English.
Yes! Treat it like a study exercise. Highlight words you don't know, things like residency, eligible, validity, processing time. Look them up, write them down.
And here's a trick. Copy one paragraph into a separate document, then rewrite it in simpler English. That way you understand it, and you're practicing paraphrasing.
Oh, I like that because immigration English is a whole world of its own. It's formal, precise, and often has no room for guessing.
Let's talk about the actual steps for researching country requirements. Step 1, start at the official government immigration website. Step 2, find the page for your visa category.
Step 3, look for these headings: eligibility, who can apply, required documents, what papers you need, processing time, how long it might take, and fees, how much it costs.
And if the country has a visa wizard or eligibility tool online, use it. It asks you questions and suggests the right visa type.
Oh, and this is important. Check the date the page was last updated. Immigration rules change all the time.
Here's an English phrase. Up to date means current,
correct for now. If a page hasn't been updated in 3 years, it might not be up to date anymore.
Right. Now, what if English isn't your first language and the official site feels overwhelming?
You can still use it, but maybe open a second tab with a trusted expat forum or blog just to see how other people explain the rules, but always go back to the official site for the final word.
Exactly. I sometimes use YouTube too. People make walkthroughs of filling in visa forms. It helps to see the process visually.
Here's a little role play for this.
Okay, I'm the applicant, and I say, "Hi, Nico. I'm moving to Canada for a job in IT. Where should I start?"
And I'm the advisor. First, go to canada.ca/immigration. Then click on Work and choose Temporary Foreign Workers. Read the eligibility section carefully and make sure your job offer matches the requirements.
Perfect. Short, clear steps.
Now, cultural tip. In English-speaking countries, officials expect you to have done your own basic research before asking them questions. If you call them without reading the website, they might politely suggest you go read it first.
Yes, so if you do need to call, you could start with, "I've read through the skilled worker visa page, but I'm unclear about the police certificate requirement. Could you clarify that for me?"
That phrase, "could you clarify," is polite and specific, much better than, "I don't understand this visa thing."
And it shows you respect their time.
So, let's summarize. Use official government sites. Confirm the domain is correct. Read your visa category page carefully. Learn and note down key English terms. Check the last updated date. Verify information from unofficial sources.
And maybe avoid confusing Austria with Australia.
That too. Next time, we'll dive into the language of paperwork, how to understand and use those tricky English phrases you see on visa forms.
That's where it gets fun and maybe a little nerdy.
All right, Elisa, today we're going to open the big, slightly intimidating door to the language of paperwork.
And yes, I know some people just felt their shoulders tense. Visa forms can feel like they're written in a secret code.
Exactly. But here's the thing. That code is just formal English. Once you learn a few patterns, you can read those forms much more confidently.
Let's set the scene. You've got the work visa application open on your laptop. There are boxes, drop-down menus, and questions like, "Have you ever been convicted of a criminal offense in any country?"
And you're thinking, why not just say, "Have you ever committed a crime?" But in formal paperwork English, words like convicted and offense are standard.
Here's your first key term, convicted. It means a court officially decided you were guilty of a crime.
And offense here means a crime or illegal action. Notice the British spelling with the CE instead of an SE in offense. In American English, they'd write it with an S.
That's a great point. Visa forms may use British or American English depending on the country. That affects spelling, but also vocabulary.
Now, one common phrase you'll see is supporting documents. That just means extra papers that prove what you're saying is true, like your job offer letter or degree certificate.
Or proof of funds, which means documents showing you have enough money, like bank statements.
And speaking of proof, here's another common one, certified copy. That's a copy of a document signed and stamped by an authorized person to show it's genuine.
In some countries, a notary public does that. In others, it might be a lawyer or a government officer.
Now, let's talk about question style. Forms often use "have you ever" or "do you currently" instead of simple past tense or present tense.
Yeah, like, "Do you currently reside in another country?" means, "Do you live somewhere else now?"
Here's a mini tip. If you see reside, think live. It's just a more formal word.
And if you see occupation, think job. Marital status means, are you single, married, divorced, or widowed?
Some of the trickiest parts are the yes-no questions with extra instructions. For example, if yes, provide details in the space below.
Which means don't just tick yes and move on. You have to explain the situation briefly.
And that's where clarity is important. Instead of writing a long story, be short and factual. Convicted of minor traffic offense in 2018. Fine paid.
Yes, formal paperwork prefers short, complete sentences without emotions.
Let's do a role play.
Okay. Nico, the form says, have you ever been employed by a government entity? What does that mean?
It means, have you ever worked for a government department, agency, or organization? If you worked at a public school, that counts.
That's so much clearer than the original wording. Sometimes you just need to translate formal English into everyday English.
Exactly. And here's a cultural point. In English-speaking countries, filling out forms accurately is a sign of reliability. If you skip details or give unclear answers, officials may see it as careless or, worse, dishonest.
So it's okay to take your time. And if a question doesn't apply to you, many forms say write N.A. That stands for not applicable, meaning this doesn't apply to me.
Good point. And remember, always read the instructions at the top of the form. They often explain how to answer.
Here's one last phrase you might see. Declaration. At the end, you might sign a declaration saying, I declare that the information provided is true and correct.
That's a legal promise. If you lie, they can refuse your visa or even ban you from applying again.
So, in short, learn the vocabulary, answer clearly, and don't be afraid to look up words before you write anything.
Next time, we'll shift from reading forms to actually communicating, how to write polite and effective emails to the immigration office.
Ooh, I love that one because email English has its own little rules too.
Okay, Elisa, we've talked about reading the forms. Now let's talk about writing, specifically emailing the immigration office.
This is important because how you write can influence how they see you. A clear, polite email can get a faster, friendlier reply. A messy one, not so much.
Exactly. Think of it like knocking on a stranger's door. You want to make a good first impression.
Let's start with the structure of a polite English email. First, a greeting. If you know the person's name, use it. Dear Mr. Smith or Dear Miss Jones. If not, you can use Dear Sir or Madam or To whom it may concern.
Here's your first mini English note. To whom it may concern is very formal and used when you don't know exactly who will read the message.
After the greeting, introduce yourself. Immigration officers may be handling hundreds of cases, so tell them who you are right away.
Example, my name is Maria Lopez and I am applying for a skilled worker visa for Canada. My application reference number is 4576-2025.
Yes, always give your reference number if you have one. It saves them searching.
Next, explain your reason for writing, but keep it short, 1 or 2 sentences.
Like, I'm writing to confirm the list of required documents for my visa application.
Or, I would like to clarify the processing time for applications submitted in July.
Here's a cultural tip. Immigration officers appreciate it when you show you've done some research first. You can write, I have read the official guidance on your website, but I am still unsure about...
That tells them you're not just asking them to repeat what's already online. You've looked, but you need extra clarification.
After your main request, thank them for their time and help. Example, Thank you for your assistance and for the important work you do.
Then end with a polite sign-off, like kind regards, or sincerely, or best regards, followed by your full name.
Let's build a full example email together.
All right, here's one. Subject, clarification on required documents, skilled worker visa application. Dear Sir or Madam, my name is James Carter, and I am applying for a skilled worker visa for New Zealand. My application reference number is NZ2025-1123. I have read the document checklist on your official website, but I am unsure whether my electronic degree certificate is acceptable or if a certified paper copy is required. I would be grateful if you could confirm which version I should provide. Thank you for your time and assistance. Kind regards, James Carter.
That's perfect, clear, polite, and no unnecessary details.
Here's an English expression, straightforward. It means direct, simple, easy to follow. Your email should be straightforward.
Oh, and remember, check your spelling and grammar. In formal emails, you instead of you, or no capital letters, can look careless.
Right, and even if English isn't your first language, correct punctuation makes a big difference. Immigration officers care more about clarity than perfection.
Now, what about tone? Some people worry about sounding too formal or too casual.
Good point. Think professional but friendly. Avoid slang, avoid emojis, but you can still sound human.
For example, I hope you are doing well at the start is polite but friendly.
Yes, but keep it short. Immigration offices are busy.
What if you need to follow up on a previous email?
Then you can start with, I am following up on my email sent on July 15th regarding, or I wanted to check if there are any updates on.
That's polite, but shows you're keeping track.
One more tip. Use a clear subject line. Visa question is too vague. Clarification on police certificate, reference number 2025-001, is much better.
And avoid sending the same question multiple times in a row. That can annoy the office and actually slow your case.
Exactly. So to summarize, use a polite greeting, introduce yourself and give your reference number. State your question clearly. Show you've researched. Thank them. Use a professional sign-off.
And of course, keep learning those formal English phrases because they'll help you not only in visa emails, but in any official communication.
Next, we'll step into the big moment, preparing for the visa interview.
Oh yes, that's where your spoken English really matters.
Okay, so we've done the emails, Elisa. Now it's time for the part that can make people's hearts race a little, the visa interview.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, it's not like a movie interrogation with bright lights and shouting. Most of the time, it's just a polite conversation with an immigration officer.
Exactly. But you still need to prepare because what you say and how you say it can make a real difference.
So let's paint the scene. You walk into a quiet office. The officer greets you, maybe with a handshake, maybe just a smile, and invites you to sit down.
They have your application file in front of them, and they're going to ask questions to check your details and understand your situation.
Here's a key English tip. Most interview questions are in the present or past tense. You'll hear things like, what is your current job? When did you start working at your company? Why do you want to work in our country?
Right. Let's break down the three main goals of the interview. 1, they want to confirm your identity. 2, they want to check your eligibility. 3, they want to see if you can communicate clearly.
And by communicate clearly, we don't mean perfect grammar. We mean giving direct, honest answers in a way they can easily understand.
Exactly. Let's take a common question. Why do you want to work here? A weak answer would be, I don't know, I just like it.
A A stronger answer: I want to work in your country because it offers strong opportunities in my field of software engineering, and my skills can contribute to the growing tech industry here.
Notice how that answer has both your reason and a benefit to the country.
Here's another common one. Tell me about your job responsibilities.
If your English is still improving, keep it simple. I design and test mechanical parts for cars. I also train new engineers in our department.
Good structure, 2 short sentences, no complicated vocabulary, but clear and professional.
Now, cultural tip. Answer what they actually ask. Don't go off on a long life story unless they invite you to.
Yes, I once heard someone asked, "What is your current address?" And they started telling the story of how they moved 3 times in the last year.
Right. And the officer just needed the address for the form.
Let's talk about body language. In English-speaking cultures, a calm, open posture, a little eye contact, and a steady voice help show confidence.
And if you don't understand a question, it's okay to ask, "Could you please repeat that?" Or, "Could you explain what you mean by?"
That's much better than guessing and giving the wrong answer.
Exactly. Let's do a little role play of a mini interview.
Okay, what will you do if your visa is approved?
I will move to London in October, start my job at ABC Engineering, and complete my probation period.
Nice. Specific and clear.
Another tip, practice your answers out loud before the interview. Even 15 minutes can make a big difference.
And if English isn't your first language, focus on clarity over speed. Speaking slower can help you avoid mistakes.
Also, bring all your documents to the interview in a neat folder. Even if you've already submitted them, they may ask to see the originals.
Yes, and that also sends a message: I'm organized and serious about this process.
So, to summarize, expect present and past tense questions, answer clearly and directly, match your answers to the question, keep your posture open and calm, ask for clarification if needed, bring all documents.
And remember, it's not a test of your personality. It's just one step in proving you're ready for the visa.
Next, we'll focus on one of the most important topics, how to describe your job role in a way that's both accurate and impressive.
Ooh, that's going to be good.
All right, Elisa. Let's imagine you're in that visa interview we talked about. The officer smiles and asks, "So, tell me about your job role."
This is the moment where a lot of people freeze. They either say too little, "I'm an engineer," or too much, 10 minutes of job history.
Exactly. You want to give an answer that is clear, professional, and matches what's in your application.
Right. Consistency matters. If your application says you're a software developer, but in the interview you call yourself a tech consultant, they might wonder if it's the same job.
Here's the first English term for today. Responsibilities. It means the main tasks or duties you do at work.
And duties is just another way to say tasks or things you must do.
So when describing your role, think of it in 3 parts: your title and where you work, your main responsibilities, and any special achievements or projects.
Let's give an example. Imagine you're a nurse. You could say, "I work as a registered nurse at City Hospital. I provide patient care, monitor vital signs, and assist in surgeries. Last year, I helped design a new patient safety system that reduced errors by 15%.
Perfect. Short, clear, and shows your value.
If your English is still improving, keep your sentences simple. You can still sound professional without long words.
Like, I am a chef at Ocean View Restaurant. I prepare meals, manage kitchen staff, and order supplies.
That works great. And you can use action verbs like manage, design, train, develop, coordinate. They make your role sound active and important.
Yes, and here's a cultural tip. In English-speaking countries, people often value initiative. If you can mention a way you've improved something at work, it makes you stand out.
But you don't want to brag. Keep it factual.
Right. Another important point, make sure your job description matches the visa requirements.
Yes, if the visa says you need skilled work experience, focus on the skilled parts of your job, not just the routine ones.
Let's role play a question.
Like, can you describe your daily work routine?
I start the day checking my team's progress on projects. I then design electrical systems for new buildings, review blueprints, and communicate with contractors to ensure safety standards are met.
That's good. Specific tasks, professional vocabulary, and it shows teamwork and responsibility.
Another thing, avoid slang or casual job titles. If you call yourself a tech wizard or a kitchen magician, it might sound fun, but it's not formal enough for official purposes.
Yeah, use your actual job title from your contract or HR documents.
If you have a job that's hard to explain, compare it to something the officer might know.
Like, I work as a logistics coordinator. It's similar to a project manager, but focused on moving goods and materials.
That way, you're helping them understand your role quickly.
Here's a vocabulary note. Coordinate means to organize people or things so they work together smoothly.
Exactly. And oversee means to supervise or make sure work is done correctly.
So your mini preparation for this step is write down your job title and main responsibilities. Practice saying them in 2 to 3 sentences. Add one example of an achievement or project.
And if you can, record yourself and listen back. That will help you hear where you might need to slow down or simplify.
Next time, we'll talk about discussing your qualifications, degrees, certificates, and training, and how to explain them clearly in English.
And how to make sure the officer understands that they meet the visa requirements.
Okay, so last time we covered how to talk about your job role. Now we're moving to another big part of the visa process, explaining your qualifications.
Yep, and for some people, this is actually trickier than describing their job because the words for degrees, certificates, and training can vary from country to country.
Exactly. For example, in the UK, you might say you have A-levels, but in the US, that doesn't mean much. Or in some countries, a college means university-level education, while in others, it's more like a high school.
So, the first tip, when you talk about your qualifications in English, try to describe them in a way that makes sense internationally.
For example, instead of just saying, I have a Bachelor of Commerce, you could say, I have a bachelor's degree in commerce, which is a 4-year university program focused on business and finance.
That way, the officer understands the level and the subject.
Here's a vocabulary note. Bachelor's degree means your first degree from a university. Master's degree is the next level, usually after 1 or 2 more years of study. Doctorate or PhD is the highest academic degree.
And certificate often means a shorter program focused on a specific skill, like certificate in project management.
Now, when you're applying for a work visa, they might ask whether your qualifications are recognized in that country. That means whether their system accepts your degree as valid for your job.
Right. And sometimes you need to get your qualifications assessed by an official body.
Let's role play a common question.
Okay, so I will be the officer. Can you tell me about your educational background?
I completed my bachelor's degree in civil engineering at Dhaka University in 2018. The program lasted 4 years and included courses in structural design, construction materials, and project management. I also completed a 6-month certificate in AutoCAD design.
That's excellent. It gives the name, date, duration, and relevant subjects.
Now, another thing, use the word completed or earned rather than got. Saying, I got my degree sounds casual.
And for your high school qualification, you can say, I completed secondary school or I earned my high school diploma.
Here's a cultural tip. In English-speaking interviews, it's okay to connect your qualifications to your job.
Like, My master's in environmental science prepared me for my role as a sustainability consultant, where I work on reducing companies' carbon footprints.
Exactly. It shows the link between your education and your work experience.
Now, some people have non-formal training, like workshops or on-the-job learning. You can mention these too, but be clear. I attended a 2-week workshop on leadership skills, or I completed in-house safety training at my company.
Yes, but don't exaggerate. If it was a short online course, call it that. Don't present it as a degree.
And remember, if your qualification documents are in another language, the visa office may require an official translation.
In English, we often say certified translation, meaning it's done by a qualified translator and stamped as official.
Also, when explaining, be ready for follow-up questions like, is this qualification full-time or part-time? Or is this recognized in other countries?
That's why it's smart to prepare 1 or 2 short sentences for each major qualification you have.
Here's a quick example structure. Name of qualification and year. Duration and main subjects. Connection to your job role.
And if you're nervous about pronunciation, especially for your school or university's name, practice saying it slowly and clearly.
Next time, we'll talk about showing proof of funds, how to explain your financial situation in a way that's both accurate and clear in English.
And without sounding like you're reading from a bank statement. Okay, Elisa, today's topic might sound a little cold and technical at first, showing proof of funds for your visa.
Yeah, but it's actually a really important step because immigration officers want to know you can support yourself when you arrive.
Exactly. And proof of funds just means evidence that you have enough money to live on. Things like bank statements, savings certificates, or proof of sponsorship.
Let's make it simple. Imagine the officer is thinking, will this person be able to pay rent, buy food, and survive without asking for government help?
Right. And the key here is to explain your situation clearly in English, especially if they ask you about it in an interview.
So the first phrase to learn is, I have sufficient funds. That's the formal way of saying, I have enough money.
You might also say, my current savings balance is, followed by the amount. But remember to use the currency they understand, like USD, GBP, or EUR.
Yeah, don't just say 50,000 with no currency. That could be 50,000 yen or $50,000, and there's a big difference.
If you have money in multiple accounts, you can say, I have savings across 2 bank accounts, which together total.
And if someone else is supporting you financially, you can explain, my living expenses will be covered by my employer. Or, I have a sponsor who will provide financial support.
Here's a vocabulary note. Sponsor means a person or organization that takes responsibility for you financially.
And financial support means help with money.
Now, culturally speaking, in English-speaking countries, it's normal to talk about money in formal, factual terms. No need to apologize or sound nervous.
Right, you're not bragging, you're just providing facts.
Let's role play.
Okay, I'll play the officer. Can you explain your source of funds?
Yes, I have $18,000 in personal savings, and I will receive a monthly salary of $3,200 from my new job starting in September. My bank statements from the past 6 months confirm this.
That's a great answer. Short, specific, and supported by documents.
Speaking of documents, if they're in another language, you'll need a certified translation.
And if the amounts are in another currency, it helps to include the equivalent in their currency. For example, my savings are 2 million Bangladeshi taka, which is approximately 17,000 USD.
Yes, but always say approximately, because exchange rates change.
One more common phrase, liquid assets. That means money you can use right away, like cash or funds in your bank account, not property or investments that would take time to sell.
Good point. If they ask, are your funds liquid? They're checking if you can actually access the money immediately.
Also, sometimes they'll ask for a financial affidavit. That's a signed statement confirming your financial details.
Right. And affidavit is a legal document. It's not more than just a letter, it's sworn information.
So, how do you prepare for this step? Gather at least 3 to 6 months of bank statements, know the total amount in their currency, be ready to explain where the money came from.
And when you explain, remember, facts first, details second.
Next time, we'll talk about providing your police clearance, how to explain your criminal record status in polite, professional English.
And why it's important even if you've never been in trouble at all.
So, Elisa, today we're diving into another piece of the visa puzzle, police clearance.
Yeah, and for some people, this one feels a little scary, even if they've never done anything wrong.
True, but here's the thing. Police clearance or police certificate is simply an official document from your country's police department saying whether or not you have a criminal record.
Right, and immigration offices use it to check that you're not a risk to public safety.
Let's start with some key vocabulary. A criminal record means an official list of crimes you've been found guilty of. Clearance means official approval or permission.
And offense means a crime. Anything from a traffic violation to something more serious.
Here's the important thing. If you have no criminal record, your certificate will usually say something like, no disclosable court outcomes, or no criminal history found.
And that's actually a good thing. It's formal English for you're clean.
Now, when the immigration officer asks about this in English, they might say, have you ever been convicted of a criminal offense?
If the answer is no, you can say, no, I have never been convicted of any offense.
If the answer is yes, you must be honest. You can say, yes, I was convicted of a minor traffic offense in 2017 and paid a fine.
Honesty matters a lot. In most countries, lying about your criminal record can get your visa refused or canceled.
Exactly. Here's a cultural tip. English-speaking officials don't expect you to tell your whole life story. They want short, clear, truthful answers.
So instead of saying, well, there was this time, but it wasn't my fault and my friend was there, you just give the facts.
Let's role play.
Okay, I'm the officer. Can you explain the result of your police clearance?
Yes, my police clearance shows no criminal history. It was issued on July 5, 2025 by the Dhaka Metropolitan Police.
Perfect. Clear, precise, and includes the date and issuing authority.
Now, sometimes the certificate will be in your language. You'll need a certified translation.
And if you've lived in more than one country, you may need police clearance from each place.
Yes, and if the officer asks, have you lived abroad in the past 10 years, they're checking if they need more than one certificate from you.
Here's a vocabulary note. Validity period means how long the certificate is considered acceptable. Often it's only valid for 6 to 12 months.
So if your visa process takes a long time, you might have to get a new one.
When explaining your police clearance, remember, keep it neutral. You don't have to sound defensive or overly proud.
Right. Just treat it like any other document, proof of something you need for your application.
So, your preparation steps are request the certificate early, check the validity period, translate it if needed, be ready to summarize it in one clear sentence.
Next time, we'll talk about the medical exam, how to discuss your health status in polite and professional English.
and what to say if the officer asks about your medical history.
All right, Elisa. Today's step is one that makes people a little nervous, the medical exam.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not talking about a full hospital stay. For most visas, it's just a basic health check to make sure you don't have any serious diseases that could affect public health.
Exactly. And depending on the country, they might check things like your blood pressure, vision, chest x-ray, and sometimes a blood test.
Let's start with some vocabulary. Medical examination is the formal way to say health check. Health clearance means official confirmation that you meet the medical requirements.
And pre-existing condition means any health problem you already have before the exam, like asthma or diabetes.
Now, in the interview, or even on forms, they might ask questions like, do you have any chronic illnesses? Have you been hospitalized in the last 5 years? Are you currently taking any medication?
A chronic illness is one that lasts a long time, like arthritis or high blood pressure.
If your answer is no, you can say, no, I do not have any chronic illnesses.
If your answer is yes, keep it factual. Yes, I have asthma, but it is controlled with medication.
And that's the key. Officers don't need your entire medical history, just the relevant facts.
Exactly. Let's role play.
Okay, I'll be the officer. What were the results of your medical examination?
The examination showed I am in good health with no conditions that affect my ability to work. It was conducted at Green Valley Clinic on June 12, 2025.
That's perfect. Includes your status, the date, and the clinic name.
Here's a cultural note. Medical privacy is important in many English-speaking countries, but for visa purposes, you must share the required information honestly.
Yes, and sometimes the clinic sends the results directly to the immigration office, so you might not even handle them yourself.
If the officer asks about a specific result you don't understand, it's okay to say, "Could you please explain what this means?"
Or, I'm not sure about the medical term. Could you clarify it?
Also, if you have vaccinations, you might need to provide a vaccination record. In English, that's sometimes called an immunization record.
And you can say, I have completed all required vaccinations, including measles, mumps, rubella, and COVID-19.
Preparation tips for this step? Book the exam early, as appointments can be limited. Bring identification and any past medical records. Be ready to explain any ongoing conditions briefly.
And remember, a medical exam isn't about finding reasons to reject you. It's about making sure you meet the basic health rules.
Next time, we'll talk about housing arrangements, how to explain where you'll live when you move.
And the phrases that make you sound prepared and organized.
So, Elisa, after the medical exam, the next thing that often comes up in a visa application is your housing arrangements.
Yep, where you'll live when you arrive. Immigration officers want to know you're not just stepping off the plane without a plan.
Exactly. Even if it's temporary accommodation, you should be ready to explain it clearly in English.
Let's start with vocabulary. Accommodation is the formal word for a place to stay, like a house, apartment, hotel, or even a room you rent.
And temporary housing means somewhere you'll stay for a short time, while permanent residence means your long-term home.
So if you're staying with a friend for the first month, you could say, I will be living temporarily with a friend while I arrange permanent housing.
Or, if you've booked an apartment already, I have signed a 6-month lease for an apartment in central Toronto.
Lease means a rental agreement, a contract between you and the landlord.
Let's role play.
Where will you be staying when you arrive?
I have reserved a serviced apartment in Melbourne for 3 months starting October 1st. This gives me time to find a long-term rental close to my workplace.
It's a great answer, clear, specific, and shows you've thought ahead.
Here's a cultural tip. English-speaking officers often like hearing that you've considered location and transportation.
Yes, you could add, the apartment is located 15 minutes from my workplace by bus.
If you're staying in employer-provided housing, you can say, my employer has arranged accommodation for me at no cost for the first 6 months.
Notice the phrase, at no cost. Instead of free, it sounds a bit more formal.
Exactly. And if you've booked through a website like Airbnb, you can still mention it. I have booked a private room through Airbnb for 1 month while I look for a permanent place.
Here's another useful phrase. Shared accommodation means you're living with other people, like flatmates or roommates.
And if you're renting with others, you can say, I will share an apartment with 2 colleagues from my workplace.
Now, sometimes the officer might ask for proof, like a rental contract or booking confirmation.
That's why it's smart to keep digital and printed copies handy.
So, to prepare for this step, decide where you'll stay, even if it's temporary, learn the formal terms for your arrangement, keep booking documents ready to show.
And remember, having a clear housing plan makes you look organized, responsible, and ready for life in your new country.
Next time, we'll talk about travel plans, how to explain your arrival and initial movements in English without sounding like you're reading an itinerary.
And a few phrases that make your plan sound confident but flexible.
Okay, Elisa, now we're at a step that feels a little more exciting. Travel plans.
Finally, something that sounds like an adventure. But still, in a visa context, you've got to keep it clear and professional.
Exactly. Immigration officers want to know when you'll arrive, how you'll travel, and if your plans fit your visa timeline.
Let's start with some vocabulary. Itinerary means your planned schedule of travel. Port of entry is the airport or border where you first enter the country.
And onward travel means the next step after you arrive, like a connecting flight or a bus to your city.
So if they ask, when do you plan to arrive? You can say, I plan to arrive in Sydney on October 5th via Qantas Flight 402 from Singapore.
Specific details show you're organized. If you haven't booked yet, you can still give an estimated date. I intend to arrive in late October, depending on flight availability.
Here's a cultural tip. In English, it's fine to say, I plan to, or I intend to, instead of, I will, if your plans aren't 100% confirmed.
Exactly. And if they ask about your first week, you could say, I will spend my first week settling in, opening a bank account, and attending orientation at my new job.
That's a good balance. Practical, not too much detail, but it shows you have a plan.
Let's role play.
Okay, so I'm the officer. Can you describe your itinerary?
Yes, I will fly from Dhaka to London on September 15th, arriving at Heathrow Airport at 6:30 a.m. From there, I will take a train to Birmingham, where I will stay in temporary housing arranged by my employer.
Perfect. You've given the dates, times, transport, and destination.
If you have connecting flights, mention them. I will transit through Doha before continuing to Toronto.
And if you're still finalizing details, you can say, I'm currently reviewing flight options and will finalize my booking once my visa is issued.
That last part is important. You're showing flexibility, but also that you know the process.
Here's another useful phrase. Travel window means the range of dates you're considering for your trip.
So you can say, my travel window is between October 1st and 10th.
Also, officers might ask if you have return travel booked. For work visas, it's often not required, but you should answer honestly.
You can say, no, I have not booked return travel because my work contract is for 2 years.
So, preparation tips. Know your intended arrival date and route.
Be ready to explain how your travel fits your visa timeline. Use professional, formal language for locations and times.
And remember, your travel plans are not just about getting there. They show the officer you've thought ahead about your first days in the country.
Next time, we'll talk about cultural integration, how to explain that you're ready to adapt to the country's customs and lifestyle.
And some polite phrases that help you sound open-minded and respectful.
All right, Elisa, we're almost at the end of our journey. Today's topic, cultural integration.
This one's actually close to my heart because moving to a new country isn't just about visas and jobs. It's about becoming part of a new community.
Exactly. And immigration officers sometimes want to see that you're ready to adapt to the country's customs, values, and lifestyle.
Let's start with vocabulary. Cultural integration means blending into a new society while respecting and maintaining your own background.
And adaptability is your ability to adjust to new situations.
So if they ask, how do you plan to adapt to life here? You could say, I plan to learn about local customs, participate in community activities, and build relationships with colleagues and neighbors.
That's great. You're showing openness without overpromising.
Here's a cultural tip. Many English-speaking countries value community involvement, like volunteering, joining clubs, or attending local events.
Yes, you could say, I look forward to joining a local sports club and attending cultural festivals to better understand the community.
And it's not just about what you will do, it's also about showing that you've done research.
Exactly. You can mention something specific. I've read that Canada celebrates multiculturalism, and I'm eager to contribute my own traditions while learning from others.
Let's role play.
All right. I'll play the officer. How will you integrate into our culture?
I will participate in local community events, improve my English by attending conversation classes, and respect workplace etiquette, such as punctuality and teamwork.
Perfect. Specific, practical, and respectful.
Here's another useful phrase. Cross-cultural communication means the way people from different cultures exchange ideas and understand each other.
And if they ask about challenges, you can say, I understand there may be differences in customs and communication styles, but I am open to learning and adjusting.
That's honest and positive.
Some officers may also ask if you plan to continue speaking your native language. You can answer, yes, I will speak my native language at home, but I will primarily use English at work and in public.
That shows balance, keeping your identity while embracing your new environment.
Exactly. And next time, we'll talk about the final stage, demonstrating commitment to your new country, which ties everything we've discussed together.
That's going to be a powerful way to end our series.
Here we are, Elisa, the final step, demonstrating commitment to your new country.
It sounds serious, but it's really about showing that you're ready to contribute and stay for the long term.
Exactly. Immigration officers want to see that you're not just passing through, but that you intend to build a future there.
Let's start with vocabulary. Commitment means dedication or responsibility to something. Contribution means what you give or add to a community.
So, if the officer asks, why do you want to live here long term? You could say, I'm committed to contributing to the local economy through my skills and experience, and I plan to become an active member of the community.
That sounds confident and positive.
Another phrase, long-term plans, means your ideas and goals for the future.
You might say, my long-term plans include purchasing a home, continuing my professional development, and possibly sponsoring family members to join me.
Here's a cultural tip. Mentioning family and community shows you value connections, which is important in many cultures.
Yes, and showing you want to grow personally and professionally tells the officer you're serious.
Let's role play one last time.
Okay, I'm the officer. Can you explain your commitment to living here?
Yes, I plan to work hard in my profession, engage with local volunteer groups, and build a stable life for my family. I see this as a permanent move.
Beautiful. It ties everything together. Work, community, family, and future.
Remember, throughout your visa journey, honesty and clarity are your best tools.
And speaking English confidently helps you show that you're ready for this new chapter.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into negotiating your work visa in English.
We hope you feel more prepared and less nervous.
Next, we'll wrap up with a gentle review to help you remember everything we covered.